There comes a moment in life when a truth hits harder than any illness, harder than any disappointment, harder than age itself. No one is coming to save you, not because people don't love you, but because life moves on faster than your heart expected. Your children are busy, your friends are scattered. Your partner, if you still have one, cannot walk into the rooms inside your mind where the real aches live. And slowly you begin to face a silence you never prepared for. The silence of becoming the only person left responsible for your peace. It's a strange kind of grief, realizing the world keeps spinning even when your heart stops for a moment. You look around your home and notice how quiet it is. You feel the weight of decisions you must now make alone. And you wonder, is this what the last chapter of my life is supposed to feel like? Alone? Unseen? But here's the truth most people never hear. This isn't abandonment. This is awakening. Life, in its own mysterious way, is guiding you toward a strength you never had to develop before. The strength of becoming whole without depending on anyone else. Because the moment you stop waiting for someone to rescue you, it's the moment you start rescuing yourself. The moment you stop relying on others to bring you happiness is the moment you begin discovering what real peace feels like. So let's begin with what solitude is really teaching you. That peace isn't found in who stays beside you, but in who you become when everyone else finally fades into the background. 1. The myth of emotional rescue. For most of your life, you were taught a lie so subtle, so romantic that you never questioned it. Someone out there will make you happy. A spouse, a partner, a child, a friend. Someone who would understand you, carry you, save you when life got heavy. And for decades, you might have believed it. You may have built your identity around it. Maybe you sacrificed your dreams for it. Maybe you held on to people long after they stopped holding on to you. But the hardest awakening is realizing no one else can save you. Not because people are cruel, but because your soul was never meant to be outsourced. You see, emotional dependency feels comforting until life changes. Children grow, partners age, friends drift. And suddenly, the people you leaned on can no longer carry what you're feeling inside. That's when the loneliness hits hardest. Not when you're alone, but when you're dependent on someone who's no longer able to meet the need you built around them. Monks in the Zen tradition speak of a teaching called the empty cup. They say the reason we feel disappointment is that we try to pour from cups that were never full to begin with. We expect others to heal wounds they didn't create. We expect love to fill holes carved by our own unspoken fears. No one can complete you because you were never half to begin with. The Buddha once said, "There is no external refuge," meaning the moment you hand your emotional survival to another person, you surrender your freedom, and freedom is the only place where real peace grows. Think back on your own life. How many times did you shrink yourself just to be loved? How many times did you stay quiet to avoid conflict? How many times did you convince yourself that someone else's happiness mattered more than your own? You didn't lose yourself when they left. You lost yourself the moment you believed you needed them to be whole. There's a Zen parable of an old monk who lived alone at the edge of a mountain. A young traveler once asked him, "Master, don't you get lonely up here?" The monk smiled and said, "I only meet loneliness when I forget who I am." Loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the absence of yourself in your own life. When you depend on others to decide your worth, you live like a guest in your own home. Polite, quiet, afraid to take up space. But when you reclaim your worth, you return to yourself. You unlock a strength your younger self never knew. the strength to stand alone without feeling alone. You realize something most people never learn until it's too late. Being independent isn't cold, it's compassionate, because it frees others from the impossible weight of being responsible for your happiness. And it frees you from waiting, hoping, or begging for what was always meant to come from within. The love you seek from others is the love you've been withholding from yourself. And here's the beauty. Once you stop depending on others, you don't push people away. You actually attract healthier connections, not based on need, but on truth. You begin choosing people because you enjoy them, not because you're afraid of being without them. And once this illusion breaks, something powerful awakens. A deeper strength, a quieter confidence, the part of you that remembers you were built to stand, not crumble. Now it's time to meet that part of yourself, the version of you that walks alone, not in bitterness, but in unshakable peace. 2. Solitude as strength. There's a reason monks seek solitude for years, not to escape the world, but to finally meet the parts of themselves that the world kept drowning out. In Buddhism, they say the quietest room is where the loudest truths appear. And for many people reaching their 60s, 70s, even 80s, that quiet finally arrives. But here's the twist. The silence you fear is the silence monks spend their whole lives trying to reach. Most of your life was spent caring for others, proving yourself, rushing, fixing, surviving. Your identity was shaped by the roles you played: parent, partner, worker, friend. But when life slows, when people grow distant or pass away, when the house empties and the days lengthen, you're left with someone you haven't truly met in decades: yourself. Solitude doesn't break you. It reveals the strength you forgot you had. Monks know that when the noise of the world disappears, the noise inside you becomes clearer, not to torment you, but to guide you. When you sit alone for long enough, something incredible happens. You begin to see your resilience. You see the storms you've walked through, the heartbreaks you survived, the decades of responsibility you carried. And slowly the fear of being alone transforms into the pride of having made it this far. There's a Zen story of an old monk who lived in a hut at the top of a mountain. People would ask him, "Aren't you lonely?" He would smile and say, "How can I be lonely in the company of the person I have known the longest? Myself?" Most people never reach that level of inner peace because they never sit still long enough to discover it. But you, right now, are standing at the doorway of it. Your life has slowed, the noise has faded, and the world is finally quiet enough for you to hear your own heart beat again. Loneliness feels painful only until it becomes self-discovery. When the distractions vanish, the expectations, obligations, the chaos of everyday life, you begin noticing small things. The way your breath steadies when you sit in the morning light, the way your heart softens when you hear your own thoughts without judgment, the way peace feels when no one demands anything from you. You stop craving validation. You stop checking if anyone approves. You stop rearranging yourself to be liked or understood. In its place, something beautiful begins to grow. Self-trust. You trust your voice. You trust your wisdom. You trust your ability to survive because you already have many times over. Here's the hidden truth monks understand. Solitude isn't a punishment handed to you by life. It's a doorway, one that only opens when you're finally ready to meet yourself without fear. You start to realize that your own company is enough, more than enough. You laugh at your own memories. You talk to yourself without feeling foolish. You enjoy the slow coffee, the quiet walks, and the peaceful evenings. You stop feeling abandoned and start feeling free. This is the moment your dependence begins to fall away, not out of bitterness, but because you no longer need anyone to complete what was never missing. And from that strength, from that unexpected peace, comes the next truth. Freedom isn't just about being alone. It's the moment you finally take ownership of your life, your choices, and your future. 3. Freedom through responsibility. There is a kind of freedom most people never experience until later in life. Not the freedom of youth, not the freedom of rebellion, but the freedom that comes from finally taking responsibility for your own peace. For decades, you might have lived for others. You raised children. You supported a partner. You worked jobs that drained you. You carried everyone's needs on your shoulders. And somewhere along the line, the idea of taking care of yourself felt selfish, unnecessary, even strange. But monks know a truth most people only discover after 60. Freedom is not doing anything you want. It's needing no one to keep you standing. The day you stop waiting for someone to rescue you, it's the day your real life begins. Responsibility in the spiritual sense doesn't mean burden. It means ownership. Ownership of your emotions, your habits, your happiness, your healing. When you cook for yourself, you're not alone. You're honoring your body. You're saying, I deserve nourishment, even if no one else is here to give it. When you walk alone, you're not abandoned. You're alive, breathing, moving, choosing your own path with every step. When you tidy your home, take your medicine, water your plants, or sit with your morning coffee, you're not filling time. You're taking responsibility for a life that is still yours to shape. In Zen monasteries, monks are taught early, the one who sweeps the floor sweeps the mind. Every act of care is an act of liberation. You're freeing yourself from the illusion that someone else must complete what you started. Responsibility is not punishment. It is power wearing humble clothes. And the moment you stop expecting others to fix you, to stay with you, or to understand every corner of your soul, life stops feeling like a waiting room. No more waiting for a phone call. No more waiting for someone to visit. No more waiting for someone to make you feel loved, seen, or important. Because you finally see something you've missed for years. You can give those things to yourself. The Buddha once said, do not seek a refuge outside yourself. It wasn't a warning, it was an invitation to return home to the one person who has never left you, yourself. Think of how many years you spent trying to make everyone else happy. Think of the decades you placed yourself second, third, sometimes last. Now, at this stage of your life, you have the rare opportunity to turn inward and ask, what do I need? What do I want? What brings me peace? And when you finally begin answering those questions honestly without guilt or apology, something extraordinary happens. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop shrinking yourself to keep others comfortable. You stop handing your peace to people who do not know how to hold it. Responsibility becomes freedom the moment you understand you owe yourself the love you've given everyone else. This is why monks walk lightly. Not because life is easy, but because they have stopped placing their happiness in the hands of others. And you can too. Not by withdrawing from the world, but by returning to yourself. And once you stop depending on others to define your happiness, a new kind of joy emerges. A quiet, steady joy that comes from finally realizing you are enough. 4. The joy of enough. There comes a moment, usually later in life, when you stop trying to outrun yourself. You stop trying to impress anyone. You stop trying to prove anything. You simply arrive fully, quietly, beautifully, in your own life. And in that moment, a strange kind of joy appears. Not the loud joy of youth, not the temporary joy of excitement, but a gentle, luminous joy that comes from finally realizing you don't need more to feel whole. You just need less fear. For so much of your life, you were taught to measure your worth by what you gained. The admiration of others, the approval of family, the comfort of companionship. But in the silence of later years, something shifts. You look around and notice that joy was never found in the more. It was hidden in what you already had. The cup of tea, the morning light, the simple breath rising and falling in your chest. The happiest people aren't those with full houses, but those with full hearts. Monks understand this early. Living in small rooms, owning almost nothing, they discover a secret most of the world overlooks. Simplicity isn't lack, it's freedom. In Buddhist temples, a monk wakes before the sun and sits quietly with a single bowl of tea. No rush, no demands. No one is asking for anything. And in that stillness, gratitude pours in. Because gratitude doesn't grow in abundance, it grows in attention. The more you pay attention, the more miraculous the small things become. The steam rising from a cup, the warmth in your hands, the sound of your breath, the softness of a morning breeze. These are not little things. These are the foundations of a peaceful life. And when you reach this stage, the stage where your happiness is no longer dependent on who calls, who stays, who notices, you begin to experience a kind of abundance that cannot be taken away. When you need less, everything becomes enough. You stop apologizing for resting. You stop feeling guilty for saying no. You stop worrying about whether people approve. You realize your life is not a performance. It's a home. And for the first time, you actually live in it. What once felt like loneliness begins to feel like space. What once felt like emptiness begins to feel like clarity. You finally have room for your own thoughts, your own healing, your own quiet delight. Think about it. How much of your suffering came from wanting life to look a certain way? How much joy was lost in comparing, in longing, in waiting for something or someone to fill the silence? But now, at this age, you get to choose a different path. A path where nothing is missing because you are finally showing up for yourself. A path where the small joys are no longer small, they are everything. A Zen is saying, when you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you. This is the heart of enough. Not settling, not shrinking, but seeing clearly how beautifully complete your life already is. Enough isn't a number, it's a state of mind. When you reach it, you no longer chase anyone. You no longer cling to memories. You no longer fear the quiet. You become quiet. And in that quiet, you find yourself, the version of you that was there all along, waiting patiently beneath decades of noise. And that leads to the final stage of true independence. Not isolation, but something far more profound. Belonging deeply, fully, unapologetically to your own life. There's a moment, usually late at night, when the house has finally settled, when the silence becomes honest. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, it simply reflects the truth you've been avoiding for years. You were never as alone as you felt. You were just far from yourself. We spend so much of life giving our power away. To relationships, to approval, to the hope that someone else will make us feel whole. But somewhere along the way, people leave, routines fade, the phone stops ringing, and you're left wondering who you are when nobody is watching. Here's the quiet miracle. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your return. Life doesn't fall apart when people leave. Life begins when you finally show up for yourself. So tonight, when the world feels distant and your memories sit heavy in your chest, place a hand over your heart, the heart that has carried you through decades, and whisper, "I am enough. I am here. My life is still mine to live." Feel those words settle. Feel how your body softens when your own voice comforts it. This is the moment independence stops feeling lonely and starts feeling sacred. Because the truth you were never taught is this: you were not abandoned. You were being guided back to yourself, back to your strength, back to your own company. And once you taste the peace of standing on your own feet, no one can take it from you. Not distance, not time, not age. The life you've been waiting for isn't ahead of you. It's inside you, waiting to be claimed. If this message touched something deep inside you, share it with someone who needs this reminder. Leave a comment. Tell me one thing you're learning to do for yourself again. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your own freedom. Because life truly begins the moment you return home to you.